And we are live with the Just Joe King podcast. I am one half of the podcast king.
And I'm the other half, Joe.
Hey, man, first of all, I'm looking rough today, bro. I did nothing to the beard whatsoever. Oh, my goodness. We're already a little bit behind time as well for a good reason. My daughter turned 14 today.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks, man. Hey, I'm trying to get like you. And we were out. And I didn't realize I was out with this beard looking like a homeless guy. Good night, man. I'm surprised that nobody had decided to tip me any change, man, while I was out looking like this.
Yeah, they're used to their homeless guys having a standard. That's what it was. I don't know. My typical homeless guy looks a little bit better than that. Your beard is looking rough. I mean, mine's probably looking rough too, though, so I can't say
that one's looking a lot better than mine. I'll say that much. How's your week been, brother?
It's been good, man. Working hard, making my time go by fast. I love that. Always nice when the day goes by quick.
Hey, man, absolutely. I had a day today that was very interesting. Had a lot and a little at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like those times in the military where you have like a hurry up and wait. Yeah. So that is how my day was spent today. I'm struggling. How do you spell Olympics?
Olympics.
Bam. All right. Let's see if I can do this to where I can update the title midstream. All right. Bam. Oh, snap. Give me producer credits. Give me, I don't know, writer credits. We don't really write stuff. This is all improv over here. Hey, man, so let's start it off by doing a check-in, man. How's your week and stuff been since me and you last got together?
Doing pretty good. Not experiencing some of my serious stuff lately, so that's been nice. That always worries me, though. It makes me get a little. It's like one of those. I'm forgetting the word. One of those paradoxes where it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the word for it.
Okay.
I'm doing good, so I'm worried that I'm going to do bad, and I start making myself get anxiety, which eventually leads to me feeling bad. So I do it to myself. But I've been doing good, trying to enjoy those moments. My wife always tells me, when you're doing well, just enjoy those moments. Stop thinking about when it's going to go bad. So it's been good. Can't complain too much. How about yourself?
Oh, man. Same here, man. I've gotten some pretty decent news on the work site as far as a potential promotion. So that's always a good thing. Yeah. I've had it happen once before just for it to go psych out. And it was no issue on my part, no issue on my supervisor's part. Just one of those stupid HR type of things, that can seem trivial. But I don't know. I don't want to crap on HR and everything like that. But there was also instances of if you want something to get done and happen, there's always an exception to everything. Yeah. And I am aware that there were exceptions made for somebody else. But because my situation wasn't as dire, even though it fell into the same bucket, that person was able to still get promoted. I was not. So that's been it, man. My sleep's been kind of crap, and I don't know why. Typically on today, I'll have two live streams that I do, but I'm only doing this one tonight. And as you can tell, we even started this late. And I already told my daughter, I was like, hey, I'm probably going to end up kind of going to bed earlier tonight intentionally, just to try to see if I can maybe shut the brain off and get some really decent sleep tonight for a change.
Yeah, sleep's important, man. It's more than half the battle, really.
Yep. Let's get into some world news, man. I saw some stuff that was kind of interesting, and one of the things that I'm going to highlight, and let me bring it up here. So we have the Olympics, man, and the Olympics are something that, let me bring up my screen. All right. So the 2020 Summer Olympics. And for those of you guys out there that might be living under a rock, or whatnot. It's a upcoming international multi-sport event that is scheduled to be held from 23 July to 8 August. I tried to keep that voice.
Dude, I don't know what's better, that announcer voice you just had, or that whistle, like kind of mousy thing when you laughed just now. That was hilarious.
So the Olympics, man, it's all these different sports, all these different countries that are part of like the Olympic pack or whatever that come in, and you've got guys that are competing to see who's the best. All right. And we've got the Summer Olympics, we got the Winter Olympics,
We got the Paralympics too.
got the Paralympics. Dude, does that take place at the same time as the Olympics, or is that over a different time?
I think part of it happens at the same time or shortly after.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure when the Paralympics run, but I know that like they've been making all the announcements of like the teams for both right now, so it's possible that they're happening simultaneously.
Got you. All right. I saw that, there's like a facts and stuff over here. It says that this is the second time that the Olympics will be held in Tokyo, which previously hosted the games in 1964. I think participating in something like the Olympics would be cool, right? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about the Olympics in just a little bit in one of our prior episodes about the young lady who had the opportunity to compete but popped hot for a banned or prohibited substance and wasn't able to compete. So we know that at least the Summer Olympics, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like a presidential term, like every 4 years or so.
Yeah.
And then aren't there like little mini Olympics, or I don't know if
there's the Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah. You got other things like the X Games and stuff like that, but those aren't Olympic competitions. I mean, people like in our country, we view a lot of that stuff like they're similar, but none of them have the international status that the Olympics have. So, and the Paralympics are from July 24th to August 5th. So they're happening at the same time as the Olympics are happening.
Gotcha.
Paralympics and Olympics. Yeah.
All right, man. And dude, so there's a lot of news coming out of it now. And you would think that, when you got a lot of people coming into one location, different cultures, different backgrounds, that there's bound to be some crazy news. Logistically, I think it'd be a nightmare. And I give my hats off to the people the countries and stuff that want to host events like this and make this possible, because you got to increase in sanitation. You got to increase in just traffic. I mean, the commerce and stuff could go up. Yeah, but I don't know if it's worth it, man.
There's a lot of countries that feel the after effects for years afterwards, like where it's like damaging to their economy or to their population around their stadiums and stuff like that. Like in South America, it was a big issue. I think in Brazil, they actually moved people out of where they were going to build this stadium. They built the stadium, they used it for the Olympics, and then after the Olympics, it doesn't get used anymore. So all those people who got moved out lives like they were displaced, and it caused a lot of controversy. But Olympic medals.
Wow. Now there's some talk too, right? Because you'll have people like I don't want to say her name wrong. Naomi Osaka, I believe that's her name. The tennis player. So she's a Japanese national.
Yep.
But prior to that, she held a dual citizenship.
Correct.
For the U.S. and Japanese. Mm-hmm. But certain laws, like in Japan, I guess if you have a dual citizenship, you can have it up until a certain age,
and then you
have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And she chose Japan. Mm-hmm. And the part that made me kind of laugh was there were not a small amount of people, but a decent amount of people that felt like, as a Black American, she chose wrong. And I'm like, she was raised.
She was born in Japan.
Born in Japan. Her mother is Japanese. Like, and she lived a pretty good bit of her life over there. Like, what are you talking about?
But the part about that, right? The part about that that really makes me chuckle is if all it takes for her to have her blackness revoked is to claim that she's Japanese. How fickle are these people that they're just willing to shun a black person, a black performer who's amazing at what they do? You're just going to completely crap on her because she chose Japanese citizenship. Does that negate her blackness? Like, is she suddenly not black because you decided so? Like, that is so stupid for anybody to make that comment. Like, especially, I'm sorry, I'm not black, but especially for black folks to say she's not black because she chose to play for the Japanese. Why would I want to play for you if that's all it takes anyways? Like, I can't represent my country. Like, there are lots of people from other countries with other countries as their national status who come to our country and do great things, and we usually don't care. Like, we don't even think about what their nationalization is. Like, they're just here doing their thing. Like, I bet you if Idris Elba walked in here, nobody would even think about the fact that he's British until they heard his accent. The rest of the time, they'd just be focused on how cool and black that dude is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, but he said, "I'm British. I'm not American." Yeah, fucking we know, you know. But should that negate his blackness in any way? Like, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, man.
Certain people. Yeah, dude. Yeah, me and you are on the same page, man. The way certain people think and just how they
small-minded, man,
formulate their thoughts, just it baffles me, man.
Yeah.
It makes me wish. It does make me wish that we had, like, in one of our first or second episodes, very early on, you brought up the idea and talked about like a form of everybody has to serve, basically. Yeah,
service to your country. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of countries demand, and I don't really see that as an issue because the first thing people are going to say is that's like a socialist thing or whatever, yada yada yada. You know, whatever. There's a lot of countries that are not socialist that still require it. You know, like I'm pretty sure Japan is not a socialist country, right? Like it's a democracy, right?
I don't know.
I'm not that smart. I don't know everything about everything, but I was under the impression they were just like us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, especially after World War II, you know, like everything just changed to something else, you know? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what people think. I don't know how they think, but sometimes I just want to shake them. Just be like, come on, guys, wake up. You're better than this. You're better than this, guys. Or at least I want to hope so.
I'm not a violent person, but sometimes I just want to punch people in the face.
Dude, every veteran listener in our group is like, I would too. Every veteran listener is just like, I would totally punch some of those people in the face.
I also saw there was one article, and I'm trying to bring it up now. Actually, I'll come back to that one. Have you heard of beach handball?
Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know anything about it, but I saw
a thing for years, like
something decades. In the news about it, and I'm going to bring this particular article up. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen.
It's about the Norwegian team, right?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
All right, and then bring this back in.
Yep, there it is.
Boom. All right, let me see if I can make this thing bigger. Giggity. So this is the Norway beach handball women's volleyball team. And there's a men's handball team as well.
Yeah.
All right. And I bring that point up for a reason. So this is the attire that they chose to compete in.
Right.
And they got fined for not wearing
appropriate attire.
Yep. They called it a case of improper clothing. And this is baffling to me because I look at this and I'm like, all right, you're on a beach. It's not anything that offers some type of competitive advantage or whatnot. And this goes to what we talked about with like rules or whatnot. So I don't know what the rules are saying what they have to wear,
The
but
bikini bottoms.
when you take a look at what the men compete in,
Hmm. But you see the women on the right, that's what they're supposed to wear. They're supposed to wear bikini bottoms. Like that's the rules. Like how old are we thinking? Like why do the women have to play that way? Why is that even a consider like as a normal dude, like, yeah, sure, I like to see ladies like that. You know what I mean? Like it's visually aesthetically pleasing, right?
mm-hmm.
Let's say when it first started, that's probably what they were thinking. Let's put them in bikinis because we're on the beach because fucking that makes sense. But like 50 years later, we can't consider putting shirts and shorts on our ladies. You know what I mean? So that they don't have to feel sexualized or exposed. I mean, like I don't even understand why it's a problem. Why the federation hasn't A, thought of it before, or B, just said, oh, you know what? That's a good point you bring up. Let's change the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, and they get
I
fined for it. And they get fined for it.
Yeah,
Ugh,
they got fined somewhere I saw in here. It was
it's
like around about
1,500 total
$175
per
dollars
person.
roughly per player.
Yeah, yeah. So
Man,
it's over $1,500 or 1,500 euros. That's insane. Like, why? Because they want to wear shorts? Golly, man.
and what I found interesting about this one as I saw it, and I went to Twitter, which is a good place to kind of get the pulse of what people
Hmm.
are talking about on a certain subject. Unlike the Sha'Carri Wilson one, which even I disagreed with the people that stated that she should still be allowed to compete. An overwhelming majority of people support the women's Norwegian handball team
Good,
and everything.
good.
And I felt like, and I don't like saying I feel, but
Yeah.
in this instance, I felt like that was a good step in, or the right step in at least a collective mind kind of getting that one right.
I honestly think that if you want to have a gripe over the Olympics, that's not the hill to die on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's, I could, I would hope 99.9% of the people looking at this story say, yeah, okay, I understand that, and just move on. Yeah, like it's a non-starter. Don't even make it an issue. Just oh, shorts instead of dressing in bikinis. All right, let's move on. Let's go. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Olympics start. You know, I would love and also hate to hear the arguments for them remaining in bikinis. Like I would love to hear it, but also at the same time, I would just roll my eyes so hard I'd pass out.
Now, all right. So, in a multinational house,
I do.
um, do you have any? Is there like a USA versus Germany beef that you and the
Oh,
wife do
absolutely.
inside the household?
Oh,
That's dope,
absolutely.
man. That's
Yeah,
dope.
absolutely. And it's great too because like we do that especially around World Cup time. We keep up a little bit with the soccer teams. Um, and I think it was last World Cup or the World Cup no, it was last World Cup because the previous World Cup Germany was the champion. So this World Cup came in. We were wearing the German jerseys with the star that said that they won, and we supported both teams until either one team was out or until the day that those teams would play against each other. So America versus Germany. I don't think it happened last one, but yeah, we have a good time with it. We're not too crazy about it, but at the end of the day, if she wants me to cheer for Germany, I'll cheer for Germany.
Okay. Do y'all have any interesting bets if the countries play against each other?
Uh, we keep it competitive. We keep it competitive. We come up with stuff.
That's what's up. That's
Yeah.
what's up. The other news that I came out, and I'm not going to bring this one up on the screen, but did you hear about the beds and what the beds were made out of and
Yep.
why that got in the news?
So this one kills me because this is honestly, I feel like this is a case of fake news.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they took something that was nothing and tried to make it into something, and it caught on. Like it caught on quick.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, "Oh, these cardboard beds," and they're made from like almost fully recycled material, which is creative and brilliant. The company that made, I think it's like 8,000 beds and mattresses, and the idea was, or the assumption was that they were cardboard to prevent multiple people from sleeping on the same bed. And so the natural conclusion we came to was they don't want us to have sex because of COVID or whatever. So they started calling them the sexless beds. And I'm just like, it's just one of those things where it's like, you really, I mean, they probably care about that, but I mean, do you think they really went out of their way to stop you from having sex? They could have just put out an order or a mandate or something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's just build the beds this way, and then they just won't do it. Please. First off, I'm going to go really fucking far and wide on this one. What about the gymnasts? Do you think they need a bed? They'll just contort their way and do whatever they want wherever they are. They'll do it on the mats. They don't need beds. You know what I mean?
Bingo, bango. That's the same thing I said. I said, man, if that's the first thing that people think about when they figure out the rating of the bed is the weight and everything like that, I'm like, beds don't mean a thing. There's standing, there's mats, there's whatever.
There's so many. There's chairs. You're telling me all the chairs are cardboard? You know what I mean? Like, I once knew of two soldiers who found a way to have sex after 45 days in the field. If that doesn't fucking disgust you and tell you just how creative people will get to get what they want, these cardboard beds are nothing. This is like challenge accepted, you know? Let's see how many people we can fit on this thing before it collapses.
Exactly, man.
You know?
Exactly. The last story about the Olympics, and I'll admit that I don't know too much about this one, but there was a story about the U.S. women's soccer team, and
Mm-hmm.
they've been in the news lately because they've been talking about a lot more about equal pay
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, but then I guess there's exhibition matches and stuff like right before competition, and they got beat by a team that they had no business losing to, and that of course sent the uh, firestorm of people on Twitter that was like equal pay, huh? You know, you guys should have, you know, but nobody. It was somewhat of a thing when the U.S. men's basketball team they lost like back to back
Mm-hmm.
for the first time in like since like the 80s or something like that. And those two losses have been half of the two losses that they've had since they've been competing as like the professionals compete for
Yeah.
the U.S. national team. That was in the story. It was a blip, and then it went away. But this U.S. soccer team losing has still kept traction
Yeah.
because of how people view female sports.
I mean, I think prime example is you look at the WNBA versus the NBA, and tell me that ESPN or whatever governing body of the NBA and WNBA performs the same way when they consider each of those factions of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Those women's teams don't get paid as much as the men's teams. I guarantee it. So first off, you got to have the viewership, right? So there's that. Does it bring in enough money to be able to boost their salaries the way that the NBA is? I mean, you got people like, LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and them, they're all rock stars in their field. They get paid to perform a service, right? Now, these women are performing the same service, but they're not performing it, not saying they're not performing to the same standard. What I'm saying is they're not bringing in the same kind of viewership and royalties and money and licenses and sponsorships and everything else that goes into what the NBA is. Don't get me wrong, the WNBA is bringing in lots of money, lots and lots of money, and it's making lots of people rich. But it also takes the American people to want to watch it and be into it too. So it's like they're being paid for the attention that's being given to them. The American people have to want to watch it. Like, it's so complicated because it's so much more nuanced than just women don't get paid as much as men.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more involved in this scenario. I can say, yes, they don't get paid as much as the men do in the NBA, but the WNBA isn't nearly as massive as the NBA is. Is that their fault? Absolutely not. It's a multifaceted topic and issue, and it's so much more difficult than just to say women should be paid the same as the men. It's so much more difficult than that. Women in the professional workforce should be paid as much as men, but you look at the federal workforce, they do. There's no question. Everybody is equal across the board based on their ranks and grades in that workforce. It's the commercial sector where it's an issue, but it's such a gray area because there's less regulation of who gets paid for what kind of service they provide. Like, I would assume Amazon has a pretty clear set of instructions for how much everybody should get paid, which is less than the living wage, as we all know. But so Jeff can go into space. You gotta take those pay hits so Jeff can fly. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, as a cheap dig. But I would assume an executive in Amazon who's a woman and an executive in Amazon who's a male would get paid equal if they're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not doing the same thing, if they're not performing at the same tier, then there's going to be a discrepancy.
Exactly.
I don't know who gets paid more in that scenario. That's not my call. But the government can't control business. And as long as there's no regulation across the board, there's no way we can guarantee everyone's going to get paid the same. I can guarantee that 75% of the time, not 100%, 75% of the time, people are just not performing at the same levels.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, you can say, Jeff's getting paid more than me, but I don't know Jeff's ever I don't know, man. It's complicated. It's so complicated. And yes, everybody should get paid fairly. That doesn't mean everyone gets paid equally.
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge, because there's women out there who make loads more money than me. And there's probably some who do it for doing a lot less than I do. Should they get screwed over because I feel that's unfair? No, ultimately they should just fucking enjoy that shit, and and they're probably not the people who are being screwed over, the ones who are saying, we deserve equal pay. There's ladies out there who are like, this is fucked up. Jeff over there is getting paid more than me. But unless she knows everything Jeff does, and unless she knows a way to properly compare the services and products that they're both doing and making, there's no way to compare pay. You know what I mean? She should also not know how much Jeff makes. If they're going off of averages and they're not living up, if they're not receiving the average of what a person in their field, that's a clear sign something bad is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
and that should be sorted out. But I mean, we're looking at companies who are barely paying anybody fair wages these days. Loads of people are like, they can barely survive. Could you imagine if on top of that you're getting paid less than somebody else who's doing the same shit you're doing? It's super complicated, man, and it's one of those things where I say that without government oversight, it's not going to get better overnight. A lot of people's ears perked up, like, government can't do that, and they're right, and they're right. That's how we're built. They're right, but let's say this continues for another 40 years. At what point do we finally say, maybe they should? A lot of the people who are like, government should do that. A lot of them are like, it doesn't affect me anyways. So don't change it because I'm benefiting from this. Don't change it. Don't ruin it for me. So, I mean, I don't know. It's complicated. It's super complicated, but somebody much smarter than me should look into it. I think there's got to be something. There's something to it. Obviously, if there's hundreds of thousands of millions of people saying there's disparity in wages, then there's a problem.
Yes, I actually got into a heated discussion.
Ooh, I
I
bet.
call it a heated discussion with somebody where, and I can admit this. All right, so my view of wages and employment and learning about this has only came from college. All right,
Mhm.
being in the military and then working federal. Essentially, my whole adult life, I've only worked federal. Where when you're in the military, all right, if you're an E3, a E3 makes X amount. If you're an
Yep.
O4, a O4 makes X amount, right? Um, and we had, male, female pilots, male, female boom operators, all right, and I can admit when you looked around, all right, the Air Force was a predominantly white male demographic, I guess, if you were to look at who made up a majority of the aviators. Now, I'm talking specifically to aviators. I don't know
Aviators, yeah, yeah. No,
the demographics for
traditionally
all the Air
that's
Force.
the statistic, yeah.
But that wasn't to say that, like, do you count that when you talk about the numbers of, well, men make more than women? Well, I'm like, but there are women pilots, women, commanders, women generals. They've
Now there weren't
they,
always.
true, and but it's like they are qualified to do that job as well as
Yeah,
anybody. There's no disputing that. So I don't know how they put the statistics together to say that there's a wage gap
those
disparity
statistics don't
between the
involve
genders.
those statistics don't involve the federal government.
Yes.
Because those statistics, the purpose of the statistic, it wouldn't serve the purpose, so they wouldn't count it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Right.
guarantee if they're doing a study, it's not from the organizations that are doing the right thing, because then there's no argument. But that's not where the problem is existing. We
Yeah.
very clearly understand the pay structure of the military and the federal government. The problem is not there. There's other problems, like barriers for women to be in certain career fields, which we've seen over the years have finally started to change and stuff like that. Even myself at the beginning, I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know if the women should do those roles, but do them. You know what I mean? My reasons behind it were a little bit different than having a woman in a line unit. Mine was, I don't think America is ready to see dead women on the battlefield.
Yes. I think
That's
we.
I think
I don't
we
know if we
might have
talked
gotten
about this
into that.
publicly. We might have talked about it privately. I don't know.
Right,
I know we've
right,
talked about this though.
right. That was
Yeah.
always my issue with women in combat units. It's it's very for 200 years, men have died in the battlefield, and Americans, they feel bad about it, but ultimately, it's what we do. You get where I'm coming from with that? Like,
Hmm.
it is what it is. It's a very different thing when you start seeing women, children, and stuff like that in those photos. Because there's going to be the next conflict we have. If there's casualties, there's photos. There's always photos. Time Magazine, New York Times, all these news outlets are going to want to share the blood and gore that's going to sell copies. They're going to just roll those things off the reams, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing for the first time in mass, not small onesies, twosies that it's happened in the past, in mass. You're going to see if it's a catastrophic war, a big war, another world war, for example, potentially hundreds of thousands of women dead on the battlefield. That is not something I think America or the world really is prepared for. That doesn't mean women haven't been dying in battle and serving their countries honorably and admirably. That's not what I mean. I just mean, have we really sat down and tried to digest what that's going to be like?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very different argument. It's not that I don't think women should do this job. I think if a woman can meet the standard and fucking do the job, she's probably better than still the 75% of men who can't do it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, if she can do it, then she can do it. That's not the problem. My thing is when we start seeing photos of dead women on the battlefield, that's going to fucking hit us like in the soul. It's so different to see that than to see us on the battlefield dead. We see us all the time. We're desensitized to it. It's a very different thing. And it scares me. It's something I don't ever want to see. But the reality is we can't tell people what they can't do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I've got a buddy of mine who does this show with his spouse called the DM Watts podcast. And they put these little topics into a fishbowl and they bring out topics out the fishbowl and they talk about them. Well, in the episode that got posted today, I listen to them each morning as I'm like doing my work stuff or whatnot. Really good product. But the topic today that they had was gender roles. And one of the things that Davey said to his wife, Misty, was like when you're in SEER school, they try not to pair you up with the opposite gender or guys to females because the guys react different when you're in SEER school and they start smacking up and mistreating the females.
It hits you different.
Yeah, like
it hits you different.
The men will react different to your other either friend, compadre, whatever your relationship is to the other person that got captured during the same mission. They can mistreat another dude and you don't react the same way as you do when they're mistreating a female, even though that female was doing the job in the military wearing the same uniform as you see that and you
so
instinctually think differently.
Yeah, it's so hard to explain. Like, this is something that I think the average American doesn't quite understand. And again, I'm not making an argument that women can't do anything. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's a sexist thing or misogynist thing or chivalrous or masculine or machismo. It is something that for the last, let's say just the last 2,000 years, you can't go against 2,000 years of programming. Like, we defend the women and children. And yeah, that doesn't sound great in 2021 women don't need your protection. and that's fine. Like, that's fine if that's what you think. But when the guns start blasting, the only people protecting you are the soldiers and the sailors, the airmen and the Marines. And there's going to be women involved in that. Yes. But they're prepared. The average person isn't prepared for conflict. Not like that. Not like, and it takes a special kind of person to even stand up when that conflict goes down, because there's loads of us who were trained and trained and trained for years, and then when the war started, people started going AWOL. So even still after all the
Yeah.
training and the preparation, and you're like, yeah, even still, some people still were like, I'm not going to die for everyone else. I'm exiting stage left. So it's still, on top of all of that, still takes this intestinal fortitude that's so hard to explain to the average person. And then you take the protection of your left and right people. If I had the choice to potentially save a male or a female, both equally capable, and in my head, I know they could both take care of themselves, I'm still going to lean a little bit more towards protecting the woman.
Ooh,
And
I
that's,
go different.
well, see, my fear is there's so many more things they can do to a woman to hurt a woman. You know what I mean? There's so many. This is my internal bias. I fear for what they could do to her.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean she can't take care of herself or save herself or be the next fucking Medal of Honor recipient. She might be the one who goes up behind Johnny and slices his throat and fucking just murders everybody's like, America, and like gets a Medal of Honor. It's entirely possible. But my internal bias, my internal programming, I fear for her more. I think Johnny on my left, I think he's going to be okay. I think Sarah on my right, she's going to be okay. But something about it makes me want to protect her more. And it's not a sexist thing. I don't know how to choose between those two other than that. You know what I mean? Like if I had to make a choice, ultimately, I think about this also. Would it make me a worse person? Like, because this is where people are like, oh, that's sexist that you do that. Okay, here's the inverse. I picked Johnny because then we're going to go on a murder spree, killing all the bad guys, because I know me and him will buddy up like Call of Duty and go at batshit crazy, right? Like, is that a better choice? Is that a better solution? Like, because I know he adds to my firepower, or he's a force multiplier, and I'm gonna succeed because I think I got a wingman now. Like, what's the difference? Where's the correct answer? There is no correct answer, because it's combat, it's war, it's death. It's like succeed or die, and people don't comprehend those two things because they don't experience those things.
Bingo.
Like, I try to explain to people. I ask people, what's the thing that made you the most scared in your entire life? Roller coaster. A dog attacked me when I was a kid. I saw a dude with a knife. Really scary movie. None of those things compare to mortal fear. None of those things even get you close to experiencing mortal fear. And I cannot, and I hope most people never get to experience mortal fear because of what it does to us.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves us with scars internally. That's why we deal with what we deal with. That's why PTSD is such a problem, because mortal fear, mortal peril wounds you deeply. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can be one of those people who never experiences a PTSD symptom in your entire life. You're happy-go-lucky. Everything seems great and sunshiny, but there's a scar. And despite how you deny it, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what people don't understand. And then you take this scenario of mortal fear, and I have to make a choice between Johnny or Sarah. I'm wrong no matter which choice I make, first off, because they don't understand the choice. They don't understand the choice. This is a life-altering, world-ending choice. If I help one, the other dies. That's a choice no average human being should ever have to make. Ultimately, that's a choice that changes you irrevocably. Like, you're never going to be the same person again because you know that the choice you made led to the death of another person. despite your good intentions, despite saving somebody else, saving your cop, you know what I mean? Like the entire fob or something. You and Johnny did it. You and Sarah fucking took out a gun nest and just, beat everybody. But what about the other person? So there's so much, it's such a deep existential thing, man. It's all of those things are just, I feel like I just went through a therapy session.
Hey,
I mean,
you know what? Hey, man, see, this is good, man. Like, this is why we do this. You know what I'm saying? To kind of get some stuff off the brain. Because just like how we said, man, in our first episode, man, we'd have those car rides where we just download a bunch of different thoughts about a bunch of different things.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I'm a complete fucking idiot. I'm not, because I mean, there's people who are going to listen to this and they're like, I didn't experience this. Like, you're a pussy. You fucking pogue or some dumb shit like they always think and feel because they're goddamn Captain America in a spangly suit and they carry the flags at Iwo Jima because they're amazing and nobody else has ever done that and nobody else ever will. I'm not the end all be all. I'm not the person who fucking has the answers or anything. But I think if anything, at least think about what we are talking about and have a conversation about it. Talk about it. Flesh it out. Get this person thinking about something that they've never thought about before. So that we're having this conversation instead of shutting each other down because you're Captain America. You've lived it. And nobody else has lived it the way you've lived it. You know what I mean? Don't be that guy. And it's a lot of guys.
Hey man, I try to fit verisimilitude into that last topic, and I felt like I was there, but in the end, I was still afraid to do it because I'm like, I don't know if I'd use it right.
Yeah, I move on from word to word every week, so I don't recall. Like I have a hard time retaining information that doesn't apply to me. So like after a week, I'm just like, okay, well, I know to use the word. I know of the word and I'll use it occasionally, but I'll move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. There was one thing that you said that I wanted to bring up where we were talking about people and what they think and how they do things. It is gone. All right.
Yeah.
Dude, we're coming up on 48 minutes right now. 48 minutes live.
Nice.
We were originally going to have where we were going to talk about the Olympics and then talk about raising girls. Might have to put raising girls onto the what we call like the chalkboard, if you will.
Board, yeah.
Parking lot it. Do you have a word of the week for this episode?
Don't I always?
All right.
So this week's word is perspicacity.
Oh, perspicacity.
Perspicacity, yes.
Perspicacity. All right, perspicacity. Okay. Perspicacity. Perspicacity is where you have the personal capacity to achieve anything you desire.
No, not even close. That's a good one, though. I like it. That was a good try.
I've never heard of that I'm sorry. You will say some words and I'm like, at least I've heard about it or I've never heard of perspicacity ever in my life.
So, and see, the beauty of a word like perspicacity is it might be used in something that's like a book or like a guide to referencing philosophers or something. So perspicacity is shrewdness. Somebody who's really good at seeing the truth behind things, like have a good insight into things. And you want to know what's funny? Where the last time I've seen or heard the word, I was rewatching very recently the first Clerks movie. And
I've never
one of
seen it.
the it's fantastic. It's 90s Kevin Smith. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, watch it because he's about to do Clerks. They're about to start Clerks 3 soon. So Clerks 1 and 2 are amazing, but Clerks 1, the movie is broken up into like chapters, like little mini chapters, and one of the chapters is called Perspicacity. And it's in that chapter, one of the guys is providing the other guy insight into his life and how he's just overlooking these blaring issues with his life that he's partly at blame for, but he blames everybody else for. So,
Mm.
which we're all very known to do in our lives. We all do that.
Yes,
But
sir.
not all of us have this person to provide us that insight into what we think, like what we're thinking of the scenario we've actually put ourselves into. So it's a really apt name for that chapter of the movie. And it really, when I watched it recently, I was like, I really like that word. Like, it's a very powerful word for shrewdness, for insight, and I really liked it. So that's
I
my
do too,
Joseph.
man. Yeah, no, I do too. So I got it up here on the screen, and I'm going to include it in the show notes because I had to
You
look
spelled
at how to.
shrewdness wrong.
Oh,
He put
doggone it!
shredness.
I
It's
surely did. Let me hit the edit.
SHREW.
W, yes, yeah. No, I know there's a W
I
in
know
there.
you
I
know.
just didn't catch it that there was
I
a
know you
W
know.
missing. Holy crap! All right, I made that edit. Uh, cool
But you
part
got
about this,
perspicacity right.
bam, perspicacity. All right, yeah, dude, I like that word.
It's a good word, right?
I think I'm gonna put it on my Facebook page or find some type of way to include it in a Facebook post or like an Instagram post and stunt like I know big words because I'm
Yeah.
learning my big words from you and the Just Joking podcast.
There you go.
Well, hey man, we have made it through episode. I don't recall the number of the Just Joking podcast. Um, it's been really interesting, and I'll leave on this. It's been really interesting because it seemed like we just recorded our last episode last week, but it has
Feels
indeed
like it.
been our biannual schedule, man. I'm enjoying these conversations, man. I'm enjoying
Me too.
having these. Even though it was my daughter's birthday, I canceled my own show just to make sure that we still made this one
Yeah.
happen.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
and because it's something that I look forward to. I'm hoping that the people that are watching and or listening enjoy the conversations and topics that we have as well. And if you did watch or listen, if you're on YouTube, tell us what you thought about this episode down in the comments. If you listen, you can send us an email at just.joe.kingpodcast@gmail.com and leave us any feedback, or go to our public facing page on YouTube. If you just type in Just Joe King Podcast, we come up there. It's a black little label. It's got a microphone on. We love to have you follow us on the page. Check us out as we go live every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, typically, or listen to us on all major podcasting platforms or catch the replay on YouTube. So that's my marketing for this episode. Joe, I appreciate you taking the time away from your family to, do this. And I'll catch you next time around, brother. All right. See ya.